What's happening, everybody? Happy Thursday. Happy Thirsty Thursday to those who celebrate. Happy Rosh Hashanah to those who actually celebrate an actual holiday. Not that Thirsty Thursday isn't a holiday, but we'll show some love to the ones that are actually recognized on the calendar. Welcome to Week 5. We got a decent matchup tonight, I think. Plenty of fantasy appeal between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. So if you've got options to sort through tonight that involve players in tonight's game, like a Bucky Irving or a Tyler Algier, we can get into all that. A Darnell Mooney, perhaps, or a Cade Otton. We can talk shop on their outlook for this evening. Go around the horn. Take a look at some of the most recent updates as it pertains to injury reports, practice reports, all that good stuff. And then, of course, any general questions that you may have. What's going on, David? What's going on, Crumply Heads? Good to see you guys. Special shout out always to my members. Appreciate the support of the channel. We can talk shop on Devontae Adams as well. Not sure how much there is to go over with that. Rashee Rice was officially put on IR. Do not drop Rashee Rice if you have him. It has not been confirmed that he is officially out for the season. It's possible that this is just a 4-game absence as a result of a hyperextension and not a torn ACL. So if you have Rashee Rice, do not, in redraft, obviously in Dynasty you're holding, but in redraft, do not drop. Hang on. Even if you don't have an IR spot, hopefully you do. Fantasy Football League should have at least one IR spot these days. I have 3 in the leagues that I commission. But it's possible he is able to make a return this year after all. So I will talk shop about I would say I'll start with the outlook for each player this evening in tonight's game between the Bucs and the Falcons. That is most pertinent. And then we'll go over injury reports followed by your questions. I will take my members first. I got to do my spiel as always. A perk being a member of the channel, a perk is getting your questions and or comments responded to in priority order. If you are feeling so inclined or feeling generous this evening and you feel like sending a super, not necessary, but would also be a line jumper, and then I will get to everybody else. So I just ask for some patience as I work through all the questions. And regardless of whether you are a member or just here passing by for a minute or so, if you are enjoying the dialogue, if you are enjoying the engagement and the conversation in general, I only ask that you like the stream. That helps me for algorithm purposes, and it's just a simple click. So appreciate that in advance. So to that point, I got to get my poll up and running, and now we are off. For this evening, the Atlanta Falcons host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You already know who you're starting in this game definitively. Bijan Robinson, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. They are in every single lineup. I'll throw Drake London in there as well. Had a quiet week last week, but still he gave you a wide receiver 3 performance after a couple of decent wide receiver 2 showings weeks 2 and 3. So you're probably firing London up as well. But Bijan, there are a couple of question marks about how healthy he truly is right now. Tyler Algier got a lot of work in the second half of the game against the New Orleans Saints. But what I have most recently seen, and I'll just double check this, is that there are no concerns or questions about his availability. He's not even on the injury report. And he was removed yesterday. So you're firing him up with all the confidence in the world. Hopefully there's nothing lingering or kind of under the radar that's going on with Bijan. Again, just based on his usage later in the game against the Saints this past Sunday during week 4. You're firing him up with all the confidence in the world. Same can be said for the Bucs starting wide receivers. Atlanta is giving up production to opposing top wideouts. Mike Evans will likely get AJ Terrell, which leaves Chris Godwin to pretty much like roam freely as far as I'm concerned. Terrell is far and away the Falcons' best defensive back. So, Mike Evans will likely see a lot of him. You are firing up Mike Evans in all situations, no matter what, even when he is in a difficult shadow corner matchup like this one. He's Mike Evans. Enough said. Again, I think we've seen enough from Drake London to fire him up as a wide receiver 2. We can't have wide receiver 1 expectations, although being at home certainly helps, and the Bucs are a little banged up coming into this game. So solid wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1, but there's optimism and upside for London playing at home. And I would, Baker Mayfield, even in one quarterback formats, is probably a guy that you want to go with. He is not just for NFL purposes, but for fantasy purposes as well. He's been pretty much like a top 5 quarterback all year. He's a low-end QB1 in this matchup, and I think you can comfortably fire him up. He's a no-brainer in Superflex formats, and I think you can comfortably fire him up in one quarterback leagues as well. That's the easy part. Those are the guys that are in your lineup no matter what. The more difficult calls are the likes of Darnell Mooney, Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, Kyle Pitts. Kirk Cousins is a guy you fire up in Superflex formats, a guy you leave on the bench in one quarterback leagues. That one actually I think is pretty straightforward. He hasn't been, outside of one performance in week 2, Cousins hasn't been very good for fantasy. So we look elsewhere in one quarterback. There's a decent chance you have to go with him in Superflex. There's a decent chance you don't have a better alternate option in Superflex. Let me start with Darnell Mooney, and I know that he has been, he's been racking up the targets. It has translated to pretty good statistics the past couple of weeks. Nothing to super write home about. 5 catches on 6 targets against the New Orleans Saints for 56 yards week 4. That's pretty good. I mean, that gives you 9.5 PPR points, 7 or so half PPR points. You can live with that as a flex play. You're hoping for a little bit more, but you can live with it. There are worse performances than that. So he's on the wide receiver 3 roadmap. Darnell Mooney is. Depending on bye weeks and injuries, you may have to rely on a guy like Mooney. You could do worse. You could do worse than him. With the Bucs running backs between Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, I think they are both viable tonight as RB3/flex plays. So I do not think their ceiling is very high. Both looked good last week. Irving was the better fantasy performer because he got the touchdown. Tampa was also up big in that game for pretty much most of the game. That sets up well for Bucky Irving. When teams are chewing clock, when the Bucs want to chew clock, eat clock like they want to in the second half of a game that they had pretty much in hand for the most part, Irving's going to be the guy that they give the ball to over Rachaad White in those situations this year. So it was a favorable. He delivered. I'm not trying to like poo-poo Bucky Irving by complete opposite. He delivered in the spot that you expect him to deliver in. When game script is in his favor and he's getting the ball to help the Bucs offense bleeds clock. That was the case in the second half of that game. Honestly, it was the case by halftime for the Bucs. They took care of the Eagles with ease. This game tonight on the road on a short week, I don't know that I necessarily expect that game script to duplicate itself. So to that point, I think Rachaad White remains viable as an RB3 flex play tonight. As always, though, when I say flex, that doesn't mean leave your Thursday Night Football players in your flex. Always, always, always move your Thursday Night Football players to one of their position spots. Maximize the flexibility of your flex. Leave that open for Sunday or Monday night if you have a player going in the Monday night matchup. Don't handcuff yourself. crazier things have happened. You never know what might pop up in practice reports or injury statuses later in the week. There's still time for weird things to happen. So if you have a guy going on Thursday night tonight in your flex, move him out. Put him in a wide receiver spot. If it's Darnell Mooney, put him in a wide receiver spot. If it's Bucky Irving or Tyler Algier, put him in a running back spot. So Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, flex options tonight, RB3s. Again, Rachaad looked decent with the opportunities that he got. He was efficient with the opportunities that he received last week. He didn't get that many because it was a blowout and because, in that situation, they're going to want to give the ball to Bucky Irving. He's the better runner than Rachaad White. I don't think that game script plays out tonight on a short week on the road for Tampa. I would be pretty surprised if they were blowing out the Atlanta Falcons on the road as quickly as they did last week. However, even when you're on the road, it behooves you to remain aggressive. You can't rest on a let's just say a 2-touchdown lead. You can't rest on that on the road. You need to stay aggressive. So I think Rachaad White remains involved for longer in this game than he did last week. So I think that makes him viable. Irving is viable as well, simply because he is the better straight up runner than Rachaad White right now. So when the Bucs are in situation where they want to run the football tonight, whether it's a neutral game script or if they're slightly trailing or obviously if they're ahead, Irving's going to get involved as well. I think both of these guys have flex RB3 appeal. Ceilings are capped because of each other, but it's possible that you just need a live body between bye weeks and injuries. So they're both on the radar from that perspective. As for the tight ends, Kyle Pitts cannot be trusted in this matchup. And I'm not sure that Cade Otton can either. He has received good usage the past couple of weeks. And obviously the Bucs are down their traditional wide receiver threes. Jalen McMillan is out. Trey Palmer is out. So they're down to Sterling Shepard as the guy behind Evans and Godwin. Evans and Godwin are going to handle as much work as they possibly can this evening, I would think, with them banged up with their ancillary wide receivers. So Cade Otton could come through from that perspective. But the Falcons haven't given up a ton of opportunities to opposing tight ends yet this year. It's actually not a good matchup by the numbers. Otton's been decent. 6 for 52 week 4, 7 for 47 week 3. He also lost a fumble that day, so that's not good. That followed two forgettable, unusable performances weeks 1 and 2. 1 catch for 5 yards week 1 before not doing anything week 2 on the road against Detroit. This is a tougher spot by the numbers. It's a road game, so a little tougher to trust the ancillary pieces just in general. I would be trying to find alternatives other than Cade Otton tonight as a streamer. I would prefer Tyler Conklin. I think I would prefer Isaiah Likely. He's been a little quiet recently, but the Bengals defense isn't spectacular, and we continue to get nothing from Mark Andrews. I'd probably rather play a Pat Freiermuth. I'd probably rather play somebody like Tucker Kraft if you have Evan Ingram returning. I think even though he's proven nothing yet so far this year, it's a great matchup against the Colts. All names that I would rather have over Cade Otton. Could even see myself going back to the well with guys like Zach Ertz and Hunter Henry, even though Ertz has been a little quieter recently, even though I've been gassing him up the past few weeks. So Otton I would classify Otton as a desperation streamer. I would classify Pitts as somebody that you maybe don't have anybody better than, and you may have to just continue to fire him up, which sucks because I'm starting to wonder is Kyle Pitts good at football, or I'll pose the question this way. Is Kyle Pitts bad at football, or are the Falcons bad at figuring out what to do with him? Because I think one of the two things are true, if not both. There's a lot of activity behind me. Let me close this. All right. Better. So you probably don't have any other option better than Kyle Pitts, unfortunately. But if you're between Pitts and another option, a tight end that you may potentially have, you can let me know and we can sort that out. As for Algier, I would have him lower than probably both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. However, they are at home in this game, and with Bijan having, couple of question marks about how he made it through the game against the Saints. There's no injury designation, so you have to fire up Bijan with all the confidence in the world. You don't have another choice. Not that you need convincing. He's obviously incredibly talented. Algier is also on like the RB3 flex radar, especially if you're desperate. If you're, maybe you've got a running back on bye. Maybe you have a couple running backs on bye. There are, we're missing the Eagles, the Lions, the Chargers, and the Titans this week. So it's certainly possible that you have one or two backs from that group. So Algier is a decent roll of the dice at home as a backup option. I'm pretty sure his home road splits are last week 8 for 60, 2 for 20. And on a short week, you generally tend to see more players, more role players, more ancillary players get rotated in because it's a short week, trying to help keep the starters fresh, having just played a few days ago. So Algier could mix in a little bit more tonight if you absolutely need him. All right, those are my thoughts on the Thursday night game. Who's in your lineup and who's potentially out of your lineup. And then I'll quickly go through the latest we have today as far as injury updates. Jonathan Taylor did not practice for the second straight day. It's going to be Trey Sermon in all likelihood against the Jacksonville Jaguars after Taylor suffered a high ankle sprain. So if you have Jonathan Taylor, be prepared to make other plans. If you didn't grab Sermon off of waivers, hopefully you have somebody else on your bench. Sermon is a decent start tentatively. I don't know how good of a player he is, so it's easy to see that he could potentially struggle, and it's actually not a great matchup by the numbers, but he could come through with a little bit of volume, maybe as like a low-end RB2 with, an uninspiring ceiling. Malik Neighbors did not practice for a second straight day. He suffered a concussion at the end of the Thursday night game last week against the Cowboys. He is a long shot to play. I would be surprised if Neighbors suited up. Devin Singletary on the same team with the Giants also did not practice today. Basically, fire up the Seahawks defense. They're not going to have Malik Neighbors, and now they may also not have Devin Singletary. So it's going to be Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyrone Tracy, and Darius Slayton. You can fire at home. You can fire up the Seahawks defense with some confidence, I may add. Deontay Johnson, limited in practice, expected to play. Khalil Shakir, this one was new, did not practice, I believe, for a second straight day after not practicing Wednesday. So his availability is not looking strong for this Week 5 matchup against Houston. Friday's practice will be telling, so we got to keep an eye on that one. Taysom Hill diagnosed with fractured ribs, so we'll see how long he has to miss. Christian Watson didn't practice today. Also, Romeo Doubs missed practice today. This was for personal reasons, not because of an injury. Watson is not going to play. He suffered a high ankle sprain early in that game against the Vikings. He will likely miss a couple of weeks. As for Doubs, head coach Matt LaFleur said that the Packers will take it day by day on his availability. If Doubs is out and you were able to get Dontavian Wicks off of waivers, he's probably in the must-start territory. If Doubs is in, then Wicks is a slightly less appealing option, but also probably still a perfectly fine one for you to go to. If Watson and Doubs are both out, Watson's out. If Doubs is out as well, then we probably need to go out of our way to make room for Dontavian Wicks in your starting lineup. We can cross that bridge when we get to it. Anthony Richardson limited in practice today, so he's probably tracking to play. He is incredibly volatile. If he goes, It's difficult to trust him in superflex formats. You probably have no choice. You have to fire him up in one quarterback formats. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to leave him on your bench. But Friday's practice report will be telling. They don't have a difficult matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Richardson has not been great for the most part thus far, and now he's dealing with these injuries. He's volatile for sure. Hopefully you have alternate options that you can go to. Jalen Warren and Cordell Patterson do not practice for the Steelers on Thursday. Najee Harris gets the run funnel Dallas Cowboys defense, what looks to be maybe all to himself other than designed runs to Justin Fields. So you are firing Najee Harris up with confidence. You are firing up Justin Fields with confidence, yes, including in one quarterback formats. Rashee Rice was officially placed on injured reserve. Again, do not drop Rashee Rice. We have not gotten the confirmation that is a torn ACL versus if it's a hyperextended knee. Do not drop him. I see, his roster, his overall roster percentage has dropped a little bit. Do not be the one to drop Rashee Rice prematurely. Let's get the definitive update that he is out for the season. If it happens, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't. But we haven't received it yet, so do not drop him in redraft leagues. Even if you don't have an IR spot, hang on to Rashee Rice. Let's see how things play out when we get more definitive information. But do not drop him. I don't care who's available on waivers. We will live with that for now until we get confirmation that Rashee Rice is out for the year. If he is, he's a drop in redraft, obviously. But if we get something that, he could actually return this year, we hold until we get definitive information. The Washington Commanders, their running backs flip-flopped availability in practice this week compared to last week. Last week, Austin Eckler missed due to a concussion, and Brian Robinson was a full-fledged RB1 going into the week. This time, it's Robinson who is missing practice, and Eckler is the one who is returned to practice. Not 100% sure how severe the knee injury is. That's what it's being marked as, a knee injury for Brian Robinson, or if it will hold him out of Friday's contest or Sunday's contest against the Cleveland Browns. But Friday's practice report will be massive as it pertains to Brian Robinson's availability. So keep tabs on that one. Eckler looks like he's set to return and would be a locked and loaded high-end RB2 with low-end RB1 upside if Brian Robinson cannot go. Nick Chubb limited in practice. Great to see that Nick Chubb is back. It doesn't sound like he's going to play this week. It's possible that his availability or return is still delayed another few weeks, which wouldn't surprise me given the severity of the injury that he suffered last year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Even if he is miraculously ruled active for this game, which would surprise me, we're leaving him on the bench. There's no way you can fire up Nick Chubb in his first start or first game back until we see more. And then finally, Joe Mixon did not practice for a second straight day this week and pretty much now shaping up to not practice for a third straight week since he suffered the injury week 1. We are not relying on Joe Mixon as of right now this week. We are not probably relying on any running back in the Houston Texans backfield. It could be a Gumbawale. It's probably not going to be Cam Akers. And they have another guy in there that I'm blanking on. I will get the name. It's not Damian Pierce. He's missing practice as well. British Brooks. Yes, of course. British Brooks. It might be tea time for the Houston Texans backfield. And Tank Dell limited in practice again. It sounds like he is set to return after a 1-game absence. All right, that's rapid fire on injuries as it pertains to this week. Time to get to y'all's questions. Appreciate your patience. Again, I will be getting to my members first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. If you are interested in becoming a member of the channel, first link in the description of this live stream and all of the videos and streams on this channel. You can find more information there. Let's kick things off with David's question. You're looking at, okay, these are some ancillary options for a full PPR league, including Tyler Algier this evening. You could start Chase Brown against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't love that at all because of that matchup. You cannot run on the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Brown could catch some passes out of the backfield, but so could Zach Moss. So I'm not crazy about that one. Algier is a dart throw tonight. McLaughlin, the Broncos have the Raiders. But McLaughlin has been pretty quiet recently. Go look at his numbers. Yeah, McLaughlin is a dart throw. I like Roschon against the Carolina Panthers. I don't know that he's going to get a ton of work, but he should be the goal line back if last week was any indication. And he's got, he got 7 carries last week. He got 8 carries the week before. He also had 4 catches on 5 targets week 3. So he had 13 opportunities week 3. He had 7 opportunities week 4. He could absolutely get another 8 to 10 opportunities week 5 against Carolina and a beatable run defense. So I think I like Roschon as one of your options, David. Braylon Allen he gets the Vikings in London, right? Which is not super ideal. But also, Braylon Allen has come through from an efficiency perspective in some bad matchups so far this year. 8 carries for 34 yards against the Denver Broncos in the rain. Might not sound too impressive on paper, but that's over 4.2 yards a carry as a backup runner, as a rookie backup against a good run defense. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. 11 for 55 against New England. So averaged 5 yards a carry there. That's obviously like the standard of pretty much like running back above average play, if not borderlining on strong, excellent play. So that's good. And then 7 for 33 against the Titans. Again, not an easy matchup. Not a brutal matchup, but not like the easiest matchup in the NFL. Did well there as well. 7 carries, 33 yards. Again, that's 4.7 yards per carry. Braylon Allen is playing pretty well from an efficiency perspective. However, this is about as brutal of a matchup as it gets. The Vikings are giving up almost nothing on the ground. They are very difficult to run the ball against. So it's a tough spot for Allen. I would say, David, your options are, I would say Roschon. I mean, do I say it? I guess I say, could it be Chase Brown? It's not a good matchup for Chase Brown. The Ravens are playing like ridiculously good on defense, particularly against the run. I have Roschon in there. It's between Braylon Allen and Chase Brown for me. Neither are in good matchups, but both are playing decently well. I guess I'll take Chase Brown because he's at home. That's kind of like what I'm defaulting to here. Whereas Allen has to go across the pond and they have to play a London game, which I don't love as much. Doesn't always matter. But like the friendly confines of playing at home, some can make things a little bit better. You expect role players to perform a little bit better with the opportunities that they get at home. I'll say Chase Brown and Roschon Johnson, David. I will say Chase Brown and Roschon. Chase Brown's in a brutal matchup, but he does have home run capability, home run hitting capability, and the Bengals offense is playing better of late as opposed to how they started the year. And Roschon, he's emerging. This is a great matchup on paper. I would expect him to get a couple goal line opportunities in this game against Carolina. And then as far as if Bucky Irving is worth trading for, and I will start pinning my messages again, I'm working through my members first. Appreciate the support from the members, and then I will get to everybody else. So I see all your questions. I just ask for a little bit of patience as I see some more folks coming in. So appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. Thanks for thinking enough to do so. Just sit tight for a bit. I will get to everybody's question. And I always encourage, if you feel so inclined, if you have an opinion one way or another about a question that's being asked, don't be shy. Feel free to share your thoughts. Is Bucky Irving worth trading for? I mean, sure, anybody's worth trading depending on the value. Everybody has a price. Um, is somebody super desperate for a wide receiver and you could offer like a wide receiver 4 or 5? I don't know that I want to offer a wide receiver 3, even though he might be worth that. If I'm loaded at wide receiver, then I guess I could offer somebody like a Mooney. I don't know, just throwing a name out there off the top of my head. I mean, anybody's worth trading for the right price. How badly do you want him? How badly do you need him? How badly do you need running back help in general? And what do you have available to offer? Like there's often layers to a trade question, and that goes for everybody. Like if you ask me, should I make this trade? It's like, okay, well, how helpful are you making your own team? Like, are you trading from a position of strength to address a position that's weaker, a position of weakness? Like, there's what do you have available to make a potential trade involving player A happen? So it all depends. It all depends. But yeah, in a vacuum, sure, I'll take Bucky Irving. He's running back depth. Any type of running back depth is valuable no matter how you slice it. It just depends on how you acquire it and what you use to acquire it. So it depends. This is insane to me, Crumply Heads. This is where we're at with Mark Andrews. We're asking, do we play Cade Otton or Mark Andrews? I mean, I will say this. Cade Otton is a desperation stream tonight, in my opinion. But Mark Andrews is a bona fide sit until further notice. Andrews is not doing anything other than helping to block, which is a testament to his ability to play tight end in a complete way, because the best tight ends obviously they don't just catch, they block as well. Andrews is clearly, a key part of what they do as far as how they run the football, which is the bread and butter of Baltimore's offense. But that's like what he's been relegated to at this point. Yeah, I called Cade Otton a desperation stream, but you're desperate if you drafted Mark Andrews. So yeah, I would play Cade Otton tonight over Mark Andrews. I don't have a ton of confidence in the pick, but they're down Trey Palmer. They're down Jalen McMillan. Otton's opportunities have gone up a little bit the past couple of weeks. So yeah, sure, fire up Cade Otton over Mark Andrews. That is where we are at with Mark Andrews. You cannot trust him. You cannot trust him. I am good with dropping, or you can't drop Andrews, but you can put him on your bench for somebody like Cade Otton. Yep, I'm good with that. Trade an early 25 second and a 26 third for Terry. Sure, as long as you are a top 3 team. You could do the same for like an Amari Cooper. Crumbly, as you asked me about Amari Cooper a little bit earlier. One of these older wide receivers that might be, if an older wide receiver, they're 28, 29, 30 years old, and they're on a team that might not, they might not be going anywhere in Dynasty this year. Yeah, you could throw a second round pick plus a little extra to get one of those guys to boost your depth. You probably are starting those guys. But if you have a loaded offense, if you have a loaded team, then this provides better depth, good depth for a championship run. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. As long as you are a top 3 team. If you're like a top 5 team, I'm less excited about it. Top 5 or 6 team, I'm less excited about it. If you're a top 3 team and you can afford to take the short-term window with these wide receivers who could start falling off by the time they're 31, 32, 33 years old, I'm fine with giving up a second round pick plus a little extra to get them. 2 seconds is a little bit tougher of a pill to swallow. I'm giving up 2 seconds for those guys if I'm like, I have a top 1 or 2 team definitively, and I'm just doing what I have to do to ensure that I have the pieces to go win the damn league. What's up, Fortune? Good to see you, bro. Big shout out to Fortune. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I did actually. Those emojis remind me I need to tweak those a little bit. But did a little bit of an overhaul. Did some spring cleaning. Did a little bit of rebranding, a little bit with some of the creative on the channel. If anybody happened to notice, so big shout out to Fortune for helping out with that. Super multi-talented graphic designer, music producer, cat stuck in a tree saver, whatever you need, he's got you. Let me get to David's other question, and then I will get to Fortune, and then I will jump back up to the top unless I see any other member questions again. Being a member of the channel, one of the perks is getting your questions answered or comments responded to in priority order, so I appreciate everybody's patience as I work through this. So yeah, Crumbly had second and a third for a guy like Amari or a guy like Terry as a top 3 team. That's perfectly fine. I would play Baker Mayfield gets the he gets the Falcons tonight. Dak gets the Steelers. Where is that game? Is that a home game for the Cowboys or is that a road game? I think it's a road game. I think the Steelers are home for that game against the Cowboys. Yeah, I'll take Baker Mayfield tonight. I'll take Baker Mayfield tonight over Dak. Dak is fine as a start. He's been good. But he's a little bit more of a low-end QB1 in this matchup, and it's a tougher matchup. I give the slight nod to Baker Mayfield. Atlanta's been pretty good. Pittsburgh's been better on defense. So I'll take Mayfield tonight over Dak and hope that, he's playing well. Mayfield is playing great, and he's got 2 elite receivers to throw the ball to. I'll take a shot. Whereas Dak has CD and lost Brandon Cooks for probably a couple of weeks with his knee infection. I think he suffered, not an injury, but an infection. So still enough to have to hold him out. So we're talking CD and Jalen Tolbert and Jake Ferguson, obviously upper echelon tight end. But after that, I mean, it's tough. So I would play Mayfield. I would play Mayfield over Dak. And you're playing T. Higgins over Xavier Worthy. Like the Bengals are back at full strength on offense. They are starting to hum. They are starting to click. It's a tougher matchup against Baltimore, but you can throw on them more easily than you can run on them. So fire up Higgins over a guy like Worthy. And yeah, again, you can try, as far as trades, you can try to trade for Devontae Smith, but what are you giving up? What are the pieces that you have to give up? It takes 2 to tango. If you can't, he's going to be treated like a high-end wide receiver 2 in trades in all likelihood. You're going to have to give up probably either a comparable wide receiver or a running back. And, then it gets complicated. It gets convoluted. Who are you giving up and how much does that affect the rest of your depth? So, yeah, I mean, you can try to acquire him, but it all depends on what you would potentially offer. So, if you have something more, if you have thoughts about a trade in mind that you're more specifically looking for, let me know. We can talk shop on it. But it's all dependent on who would you offer. What would it take for the trade partner? What do they need? Do you have something that addresses their needs? It gets pretty involved. But let me know what you're thinking. And I would fire up Mayfield tonight, and I would fire up Higgins over Worthy. Fortune, would I start Kyler against the Niners? Is that game a road game for the Cardinals, or Fields versus the Cowboys this week? I think that actually makes it a little bit easier for me. I would play Fields, and I would play Fields with a decent amount of confidence over Kyler. Kyler is not playing well right now. I think there was a perception that Kyler was playing well after week 2 when he boat raced the Rams, but as it turns out, everybody's boat racing the Rams these days. Since then, he hasn't been playing well. He bottomed out last week in a beautiful matchup against Washington. That's not acceptable. Now he has to play the 49ers, and I'm pretty sure it's a road game. Screw that. Fields. I think Fields is playing better from a fantasy perspective at the very least, and maybe in a real life perspective as well. Justin Fields is playing better than Kyler Murray, and it's a great matchup. The Dallas Cowboys are a run funnel on defense, and they just lost Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. They were shit against the run with those two guys, and now they don't have either of them. Who's even left on the Cowboys defensive line? Mozzie Smith? They were bad against the run with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and now they don't have either one of them. Fields is running the ball incredibly well. He has week-winning upside with his legs alone, and the Cowboys are a shell of themselves on defense. Last year, they were like the number one defense for fantasy purposes and one of the elite defenses in the NFL. This year, they are the opposite of that. Fields, and it's like, for me, Ford, it's not close. Fields over Kyler, and it's not close. Fields over most quarterbacks this week, to be honest, and it's not close. The matchup is beautiful, and Fields is playing better than he ever did in Chicago. Fields. Easily. And David, you can try that. I would be on board with that. If you can do Worthy for Smith, if you can sell somebody in your league on Xavier Worthy's the wide receiver 1 now for the Chiefs, and you can get a proven commodity in Devontae Smith, if you can do that 1-for-1, yes. Yes. If you can acquire Devontae Smith for Xavier Worthy, based on the hype that he is now the Chiefs wide receiver 1, while Rashee Rice's status continues to hang in limbo, meaning he could still return this year. Yes, do that trade while it is available to you. I would run, not walk. Yes. If you can sell Xavier Worthy to get Devontae Smith, yes, do that. Do that. I fully endorse that. 100%. All right, I think those are the member questions that I have. Appreciate all of you. Thanks for the support of the channel. Appreciate that. Let me get to everybody else. Bobby, you're not a member, but I will give you a shout out because I've seen you before and you've been very kind to the channel, so appreciate that. Hello. It's late for you, but thanks for staying up. I don't know if you're going to catch some of this game this evening. It's going to be quite late. But nevertheless, we need to sort out a starting lineup, and I believe it involves players going tonight. Kyler versus Love as your one quarterback. I will take Jordan Love against the LA Rams definitively. Kyler Murray, let me just, now that I've gotten two Kyler questions somewhat back, Kyler is a sit this week. If you can. You probably can't in Superflex, but if you can in one quarterback, the obvious names are obviously over him. Lamar, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels. I think Justin Fields is an obvious name. I think Brock Purdy against the Cardinals. Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud. I would play Geno Smith against the Giants again over Kyler Murray. I would roll the dice on Anthony Richardson if he's healthy over Kyler Murray. I would play Baker tonight over Kyler Murray. I would probably even play guys like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson over Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray bottomed out in a great matchup last week, and now he has to go on the road and play San Francisco. Kyler is I might play Dak over Kyler, even in a brutal matchup against the Steelers without Brandon Cooks. At least he still has CeeDee. I'm starting a lot of quarterbacks over Kyler Murray this week. So Love is 100% one of them. No question. Against the Rams, you're starting everybody against the Rams. The Rams defense is awful. They are awful. They're bad against the run and they're bad against the pass. Other than that, they have a bright future. But they are somebody that you fire every one of your offensive pieces up against. Fire up Love over Kyler with ease. Bijan, no doubt. Mason, no doubt. I would say Jacobs, no doubt, as well for your flex. Again, they're playing the Rams. The Rams are a funnel right now. They are a run funnel and they're a pass funnel. And Jacobs' stock is up right now for me with the return of Jordan Love. Jacobs is quietly playing well this year. It's the noise is louder about Josh Jacobs because he's not done two things yet. He's not catching the ball and he hasn't scored yet. That will change now that Love is back. Jacobs is averaging a healthy 4.5, 4.6 yards per carry. He's playing well. Your two wide receivers are Jaden Reed. Jamo's on bye. Christian Watson is hurt. I don't trust Zay Flowers. It's tough to trust Garrett Wilson right now. McLaurin is going up against the Browns. That is a tougher matchup. And Wandale is in a prime position to come through with volume because Malik Neighbors is not going to play. Wandale Robinson. I learned this from the fantasy footballers. I actually didn't know this. Did anybody know that Wandale Robinson is 5th in the league in targets? He has drawn the 5th most targets in the NFL. His teammate Malik Neighbors is number 1 to the surprise of nobody. Neighbors already looks like a superstar. Wandale Robinson is 5th in the NFL in targets, and now Neighbors is out. And now Neighbors is not going to play. I say you fire up Wandale. I say you leave Garrett Wilson on the bench over Wandale Robinson. That is where we are at in the year 2024. So I'm starting from this group. Love at quarterback, Bijan, Mason, Jacobs as your 2 running backs and your flex, and I am firing up Jaden Reed and Wandale Robinson as your 2 wide receivers. And then obviously McBride is your tight end. It's a good group overall rest of season. It looks like a start question and also a rest of season rate question. It's a good squad. It's a good squad. What is Trey McBride's? I believe Trey McBride returned to practice, so he should be ready to go. He was limited today. Or he was limited yesterday. Do we have anything about him today? But he returned to practice yesterday, so that was a good sign. Fully practiced today. We just got it. It just broke. Trey McBride fully practiced today. You are going back to the well with Trey McBride this week with confidence. So you don't need to worry about Cade Otton or anything like that. You're playing Trey McBride. He fully practiced today. Great news. Great sign. Fire him up. It's a good squad. It's a good team. Good team. Wandale Robinson is a high-end wide receiver 2 this week with no Malik Neighbors. Don't watch the game, as the footballers said. Don't pay attention. Just throw him into your lineup. Just blindfold your eyes and just check out what the production is at the end of the game. There's a decent chance he's going to garner 10 targets. Should be able to turn that into something decent. And probably heads, you're getting Andrews and 2 seconds for Terry and Shaheed. Is this do you have Kincaid or one of the younger tight ends that we have high expectations for? If you do, I don't mind this. I don't mind this. It feels like a little much to give up because you're selling Andrews at his lowest point, and it's possible that he, does eventually dig out of this slump. But if you're set at tight end, I don't. If you're set at tight end, and I think you might be in this particular situation, then I'm okay with the move. I'm okay with the move. I will pin what I just referred to. You would be trading. The only thing, Crumply Heads, and I know you know I'm not crazy about selling guys at their lowest. Oh, you have McBride and you have Isaiah Likely, who is like waiting in the wings to fully emerge. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Again, I will caveat, I'm not crazy about selling guys at their lowest point, but also like it's red flags galore with Mark Andrews right now. Nino, appreciate the super. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Can I not pin? I can't pin supers. I mean, I guess they do blow up with like a little bit of a graphic, so you know that I'm responding to it. But appreciate the super. Very kind of you. I will get to this now. You need one flex between Wicks Worthy and Terry McLaurin in full PPR. So these guys are going on Sunday, so we have a little bit of time left to sort this out. Terry McLaurin is in a tough matchup, but also Terry McLaurin has new life with how Jaden Daniels is playing right now. Wicks is not far behind though. He looks like he has breakout potential. But Terry, we already know, is established. 7 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown this past week on 10 targets. 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown week 3 against Cincinnati. This is a tougher matchup by the numbers against Cleveland. His ceiling is a little lower. Whereas Wicks gets the funnel that is the LA Rams, and Romeo Doubs potentially does not play. I would say, Nino, and I'm not including Worthy in here. I know that maybe sounds a little blasphemous because he's going to have he's wide receiver 1 now for the Kansas City Chiefs. But he's going to see, does that mean he sees Marshawn Lattimore? Is Marshawn Lattimore going to be on Xavier Worthy Monday night when the Saints play the Chiefs? I don't like that spot. That feels like a welcome to the NFL moment for Xavier Worthy. So Worthy's out for me here. It would be between Wicks and Terry McLaurin. I will say tentatively, Nino, you play McLaurin if Romeo Doubs plays for the Packers. Right now, Dobbs' status is up in the air. He missed practice today for personal reasons. I don't think he practiced yesterday either. If we already know Christian Watson is out, if Romeo Doubs is out as well, and we again have until Sunday to sort this out, I would play Wicks over Terry if Dobbs is out. I don't think I can fire up Wicks over Terry just yet if Romeo Doubs plays. Regardless of Dobbs' status or not, Wicks is about to get a full-fledged, full-time role. And the Rams are, the Rams are getting cooked by everybody. Again, you want to start your players against the LA Rams. I will say McLaurin, and then I think, they both play. What time are those games? Do they play at the same time? That's important as well. McLaurin plays at 1 o'clock. Wicks plays, I think do they both play at 1 o'clock? I gotta see. No, Wicks plays until, okay. So the Packers play at 4 in the later window, in the 4:25 East window. So that makes things potentially a little bit more difficult for this decision. I would say Terry, but if we get news before any games kick off on Sunday that Dobbs is not going to play, then I actually would move Wicks over McLaurin. But we got to see. Appreciate the super. Hopefully that helps. Obviously, let's keep our eyes and ears pinned to the latest injury reports. Friday will be big, and we'll go from there. But appreciate the super. Thank you so much. Bobby, I think I got all of your questions. Again, don't worry about Cade Otton if you have Trey McBride. McBride fully returned to practice today. You're good to go there. If you need to drop players to fill kicker and all that stuff, I mean, you could drop Watson. You could drop Watson, and then I don't really want to drop anybody else here. Could try to trade Kyler to a QB needy team. Maybe try to do a 2-for-1 to free up a roster spot. If you need to drop players, first explore your avenues to make a trade. Can you make a 2-for-1 happen where you can flip Kyler and, I don't know, Javonte for another random running back? Or not a random running back, because Kyler is likely an upgrade for some teams based on whoever their quarterback is. I would consider doing that. But Watson can be dropped. After that, I don't know. I guess you could drop Javonte as well if you absolutely have to. I don't want to drop any of those other wide receivers, though. Zay Flowers might be getting close. That's where we're at. All right, let me keep it moving. You're thinking of trading Kirk Cousins for Sam Darnold. Yeah, I would. I would. Cousins has been bad. And now that might not remain the same the entire year, but if this is just like a 1-for-1 swap in one quarterback, even if it's a 1-for-1 swap in Superflex, I mean, Darnold is outperforming Cousins right now. Now, that being said, I don't want to play Darnold this week against the Jets, but I don't want to play Cousins tonight against Tampa either. Yeah. Right now, Kirk Cousins is the QB 25 through 4 weeks. That's not good. Cousins is the QB 25. I mean, Darnold is the QB 4. I don't think that is sustainable. I don't think that is a sustainable trajectory for either of these guys, but Darnold's playing well, and Cousins isn't. So, yeah, if I have a 1-for-1 offer on the table and it looks like it's already been accepted, then sure. Move forward with Darnold. Rock with the player who's playing better. Screw it. The trade was I would just keep it then. Or if you are acquiring Sam Darnold, you're trading Kirk Cousins, that means you're giving away Kirk Cousins and getting Sam Darnold. Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with that. If it's flip-flopped and you're trading Sam Darnold and acquiring Kirk Cousins, I don't like that. I would say no. I want the Darnold side in a 1-for-1 swap. I don't really want to start either of them this week, but I'd rather have Darnold. He has a brilliant play caller in Kevin O'Connell as head coach. He's got the best wide receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. He's got good ancillary options in guys like Jordan Addison and Jalen Naylor. TJ Hawkinson is coming back at some point. Yeah, I would much rather have Darnold than Cousins. I would much rather have Darnold. Crumbly heads, do your thing. I'll be on the lookout. What do you do? And then what do I do with Rashee Rice? You hold for now. I mean, nobody's going to probably give you anything. If somebody came to me and offered me Rashee Rice and say Jalen Waddle even for I don't know. I don't know what type of upgrade we're looking at here. Like, I don't know, an Amari Cooper. or just somebody who's healthy right now. I don't even know who you could theoretically get. I don't know who you theoretically want. But I think for now, I would hold Rashee Rice unless you are if it's dire straits at wide receiver for you. I don't know. Is running back a strength? I don't want to trade running back depth, but do you run 4 or 5 deep at running back? If you do, then you could trade your RB 4 or 5 to try to, maybe to package with Jalen Waddle to get a better wide receiver. You're not really going to get anything for Rashee Rice right now until we get more definitive information about his status. Like, I don't want to trade for him in redraft right now. I don't know if he's going to come back this year. The fact that he hasn't been ruled out for the year yet is a good sign. But also at the same time, like, what game are the Chiefs playing right now? Because we haven't gotten any definitive news. We haven't gotten anything one way or another. Is it a hyperextension or is it a torn ACL? How bad is it? He just got put on IR, so we lost him for a minimum of 4 games. Does that mean it's going to be the rest of the season? I don't know. So, like, I'm not acquiring Rashee Rice in redraft personally. If somebody in your league who either loves Rashee Rice or is a Chiefs fan is willing to roll the dice, and you can get a guy who's active and healthy now, then okay, great. But you're going to be selling him at his lowest point. Same can be said for Jalen Waddle. By the way, I'm not actually, to that point, I'm not trading Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. If anything, I would actually try to buy low on those guys, and roll the dice. Not saying do it, but if you were asking me my preference, I would prefer to buy low on those guys than sell low because the window of opportunity remains for Tua to return this year. How likely is it? I don't know. But he's reportedly, the most recent report as it pertains to Tua is that he is symptom-free. We don't know if it's going to stay that way. We don't know if that's going to stay that way. So I would hold Rashee Rice. Again, I don't want to sell low on Jalen Waddle. You're not going to get anything good for him either. I think I would hold. If you are desperate at wide receiver, I would ask you, like, where else can you try to upgrade? Are you running strong at running back? Do you have 2 tight ends that are both viable and you could unload one of them? Do you have same question about quarterbacks. Do you have 2 quarterbacks that are viable and you could unload one of them if it's a 1 quarterback league? So, like, yeah. I don't want to trade from a position of weakness at a sell low point. I want to try to address it in other ways. Because you're probably not going to get that much for Rashee Rice or Jalen Waddle right now. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in. You have to light Bijan up with confidence today because you don't have a choice. Like, that's what it comes down to. I understand that, like, yes, Bijan missed. He wasn't getting run late in that game, week 4 against the Saints. He reportedly picked up a minor injury. Tyler Algier was getting an additional run, and he was on the injury report. But, of course, he was on the injury report. It was a short week. Everybody's on the injury report on a short week. He was removed from it yesterday. We have no choice. It's Bijan Robinson. You have to have confidence. You have no choice but to play him. He's not on the injury report. You're going with him. He's not on the injury report. We have no choice. If you can play Aaron Jones separately, then great. You are playing Bijan Robinson tonight, though. You have to. You have to. He still ended up with almost 10 half PPR points last week, mostly because of what he did as a receiver. The expectation is he's not going to be limited tonight. You have to play. You have to play Bijan. You have to play. We have no choice. You have to fire him up with confidence because a healthy Bijan is somebody where you don't have a better option. And that's a testament to Bijan. Like, he's that good. As far as Mixon, Greg, you do have to probably make other plans for Joe Mixon. He is missing practice yet again. If you have Joe Mixon, you're making alternate plans. He's not practicing for the second straight day this week and for the third week in a row. We are officially not trusting Mixon this week. Obviously, Friday's practice report will be telling. But as of right now, it's not looking good for him. So you're moving off of Mixon. Between Aaron Jones, Michael Pittman, and Jawan Jennings. Jones is in a tough matchup against the Jets, but I think that's where I would go because the Vikings are just playing great right now. Aaron Jones is your flex, Greg. Well, yeah, I guess Bijan, RB spot, Aaron Jones in your flex. That's what I'm doing with confidence. I would play Aaron Jones probably right now over Joe Mixon if Joe Mixon was healthy, but Joe Mixon isn't healthy. So that makes it easy. And Debo's a slam dunk wide receiver. Oh, okay. He's already in your lineup. All right, well, good. That's good. So what? The question is, so it's like Pittman versus Bucky Irving or Chase Brown? Pittman if what is the I guess I want to play Pittman if Flacco plays, but I don't want to play Pittman if Richardson plays. I would wait. I would hold out and see what happens with I would hold out and wait and see what happens with Richardson, Greg. If Richardson is ruled out and it's Flacco, then I would play Pittman. If Richardson is in and you don't want to trust that situation, which I don't understand, then you could pivot to Jennings, who plays in the later window on Sunday. That's what I would do. Bucky could be fine tonight, but I feel like he's a little bit more volatile on the road on a short week where game script isn't necessarily guaranteed to be in his favor. I do like Dowdle. You could pick him up, but I don't want to drop any of those other guys. No, I would play. I would put Pittman in your flex, Greg. And if Richardson is active, you can swap to Jawan Jennings. I'm okay with that. I think Bucky should be fine as an RB3 flex play, but he doesn't have a ceiling. And I think this is not, game script was heavily in his favor last week, and he came through to his credit. I don't know that he's going to get the game script tonight. Short week on the road. I feel like Rachaad White has a chance to catch some passes tonight and be the guy who's a little bit better of a play. So I would hold off on Bucky, given your other options. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. Where am I at? What impact will there be on Garrett Wilson if Adams is traded to the Jets? Garrett Wilson becomes the team's wide receiver 3 because right now Allen Lazard is the team's wide receiver 1. I hate to say it, but I'm not sure if Garrett Wilson is that guy. If the Jets trade for Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson is, for this year, he might be cooked relative to expectations. On one hand, it might help open things up for him, but on the other hand, his chances of being a target hog are gone. If you reconnect Rodgers and Adams, who you would probably expect their connection and chemistry is not going to take long to reconnect, to rekindle, Garrett Wilson would be in trouble. If the Jets trade for Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson's fantasy outlook is not good. It's not good now. Again, I have been defending him a little bit because the matchups have been and the matchups and situations have been pretty brutal for Garrett Wilson to start the season, and that's not his fault. San Francisco, Tennessee, New England, Denver. That's a tough stretch for any wide receiver. The Niners defense, L'Jarius Sneed for the Titans, Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots, and Patrick Surtain for the Broncos is as brutal a stretch as you can get for a wide receiver for your first 4 games of the season. But also, Garrett Wilson is supposed to be that dude. On the other side of that coin is Garrett Wilson is supposed to be that dude, and he hasn't been that dude. If they trade for Devontae Adams, it might be GG's. It might be good, rest in peace for Garrett Wilson for his fantasy value. It will probably tank. If you have Garrett Wilson, you are praying to the fantasy gods that does not happen. Because he's already struggling relative to expectations. He's already struggling relative to expectations. He hasn't cleared 60 yards receiving in any game this year. He has 1 touchdown. That's not good. That's not good. They add Adams, it's even worse. So, see what happens with Garrett Wilson, because it's not working for him now as the alpha. Someone offered you Bowers for Olave. And your tight end 1 is Kmet. No. I'm not countering. I'm not doing 1 for 1. Bowers has been really, really good. He dudded last week, but he's been otherwise really good. I'm not offering any of those wide receivers 1 for 1. I'm not offering any of those receivers 1 for 1. I would ask for Bowers plus for Olave. Like, could you use, do they have an RB3 or 4 that you could pluck away? Everybody always needs running back depth. I don't need to ask if you need running back depth. The answer is everybody needs running back depth. Bowers for Olave 1 for 1? No. Not T. Higgins, not Deontay Johnson. I'm not 1 for 1 for any of those guys. No. I'll continue to stream tight ends before I trade one of those guys 1 for 1. I like Bowers, but no. 1 for 1, no. Bowers plus a running back? Because your wide receiver depth is strong. So you could afford to trade one of these guys, but I need more than a tight end. I need more than a tight end for one of them. I would need Olave and a running back. Yep. Yeah. See who else they have available to you. Oh, Greg, you got you got hit with the ads. Sorry about that. Yeah. Pittman if Flacco plays, Jennings if Richardson is in for the Colts. And Mixon's not going to play. I would be stunned at this point if Mixon plays. You can make plans to move forward without him. Yeah. Pittman in your flex. If Richardson is out and Flacco is in, play Pittman. If Richardson plays, you can switch to Jennings. Yep, that's what I would do. All right. Yeah. Do not do Bowers for Olave 1 for 1. Get more than that for Olave. Get Bowers in a running back. Do we relegate Chuba to the bench with Jonathan Brooks returning? I mean, not right away. At the very least, not right away. Because Brooks' practice window, we got great news about Jonathan Brooks last week, but then they didn't open his practice window this week. So it's like, so what is it? Is he close or is he not? Chuba's a locked and loaded option as an RB2 this week. Maybe a low-end RB1, to be honest. Chuba's on the low-end RB1, high-end RB2 radar this week. You are starting him if you have him, unless you have, like, I don't know, Bijan, Mason, and Kamara as your running backs, which I guess you could. It's crazy to think that you could, but you could. Yeah, we're not relegating Chuba. I don't think for at least a few weeks until Brooks returns. They'll ease him in. So you're firing Chuba up this week. I would say you could probably fire Chuba up next week. And there's a chance that he still holds some value, week 7 and week 8 as well. I don't know when the Panthers bye week is. Let's see if I can check that. The Panthers bye week is week 11. Okay, it's on the later side this year. Okay, yeah, I mean, I would think Chuba remains viable for the next month. So, no, you're not relegating him to the bench just because Brooks returns. Eventually, yeah, maybe, but right away, no. Right away, no. This is a start-sit question. Achane, McLaurin, Ayuk, or Deontay in standard scoring. I mean, even if it's standard, I think I would just go Deontay. It would be Achane, but Achane's ceiling is gone with the current construction of the Dolphins offense. McLaurin's been good, but this is a tougher matchup. Ayuk has not done anything yet this year. Deontay. He's been incredible since Andy Dalton took over as the starting quarterback. No reason not to go back to him. Yep, no reason not to go back to him. Deontay for sure. Let's see. And then Nino, you sent the super, so I want to make okay. So I answered that, but this is a different question. Got it. One at the flex between Jawan Jennings, Chase Brown, and Darnell Mooney, and 2 of these guys go tonight. Or no, 1 goes tonight. I don't dislike Mooney in this matchup. Chase Brown is a little tougher to trust against the Ravens. And then we got Jennings, who has been very good. But Debo's back, Kittle's back, Ayuk is still there doing his best, I guess. Mooney tonight in full PPR? These guys are all they're on the flex radar. But I mean, Mooney's got 20 plus targets the past 3 weeks. He's an integral part of what they want to do on offense. They're at home. The Bucs are banged up in the secondary. I would go Mooney, I think. I would go Mooney. I will say I really don't like starting players on Thursday night in general unless they are slam dunk must starts. But if you do have to make a choice between a bunch of flex options, then the Thursday matchup concern has to get thrown out the window. I think this is a good spot at home. Jennings could be in a potential shootout, but his ceiling is capped with the return of Debo and Kittle. He still had a strong week last week, but, do his routes get cut this week now that Debo is like a full week removed from his return? I'll say Mooney tonight. I will say Mooney tonight. I'm intrigued by Chase Brown, but it's a really bad matchup against the Ravens. They're not letting any running backs do anything. And then 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. I wouldn't be banking on Jonathan Taylor. He's missed the past 2 weeks, or the past 2 practices, excuse me. Missed the past 2 practices, suffered a mild high ankle sprain. I would be shocked if he practices tomorrow, and therefore I would be shocked if he plays this weekend. So you're not going to be able to have Taylor. So I do think I would go Bucky tonight. And I think you have to go Jerome Ford against Washington. Nick Chubb's not coming back this week. Or I don't think we can expect that anyway. Ford had a nice day last week, 10 for 58 on the ground, 7 for 27 through the air. He has 2 games this year with 7 targets, Jerome Ford does. And Washington is an absolutely beatable matchup on defense, no matter where you look. I would go Ford definitively. And then I don't know if it's half PPR or full PPR or standard. If it's standard or half PPR scoring, I would say Bucky. If it's full PPR, then you could roll the dice on Chase Brown. Those are your 2 running backs. Ford, Bucky if it's standard or half PPR, Chase Brown if it's full PPR, and then your flex is Pickens. Your flex is Pickens for sure. And then your tight end is Ferguson until we see Engram. It's a bad matchup, but until we see Engram come back and do something, if you have a guy like Jake Ferguson, you fire him up. Yeah. So Ford for sure as a running back. Bucky in standard, Chase Brown in full PPR. It's truly a coin flip. It's half PPR. I think I slightly lean Bucky. Pickens is your flex, and then Fergie Ferg is your tight end. Yep. We got a few more start-sit questions. I can get through these now. Javonte, Achane, Singleton, and thank you for, again, scoring helps. That helps with context. Full PPR, half PPR, standard scoring, 6-point passing touchdowns, super flex format. Are there bonuses in the scoring? The context that you can provide certainly helps. So thank you. Javonte, Achane, Singletary. Singletary's not practicing, so let's rule him out. Shaheed, Smith and Jigba, or Christian Kirk. There's a lot of good options here. Javonte, good matchup against the Raiders. Interesting guy. Smith and Jigba against the Giants. Nothing scary about that. Kirk gets the Colts. Nothing scary about that. Javonte Williams gets the Raiders. I am tentatively wanting to say Javonte. I don't know how much confidence I have in it, but in half PPR, in a great matchup against the Raiders, who are possibly going to be without Max Crosby. Javonte had a nice day last week against the Jets in a bit of a surprise. That was a tough matchup, and he came through in a decent way. I'll say Javonte. We're on a week-to-week basis with Javonte. We're not going to be able to declare anything about him for a little bit, but for now, we can ride a little bit of momentum. I'll say Javonte. And then between Irving, Chase Brown, you have Sermon as an option, you have Adunze as an option, and you have Keon Coleman as an option. I don't know if I trust those wide receivers. Sermon has a chance at a bell cow role without Jonathan Taylor. I just don't know if I trust him because he's not that good. I'm sorry. He's just not that good. I picked him up in a league as well just to get some, just to have a live running back on my radar or on my roster as an option, but I don't think I want to start him now that I think about it. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in him. I guess I would play. If it's full PPR, I'll take, or no, it is. It's full PPR. I'll take a shot on Chase Brown, and it makes me nervous to suggest Bucky Irving over Trey Sermon. Sermon is going to be ranked high in consensus rankings this week because he's going to get all the opportunity to himself, potentially. I just don't know if he's any good. What did Tyler Goodson do last week for the Colts, if anything? I feel like he got in there a little bit. No, he didn't. He didn't get any. Okay, he didn't get any work. Why did I think he did? I guess not. I guess Sermon is going to be the bell cow. All right. In full PPR, I'll take a shot on Chase Brown, and I will begrudgingly play Trey Sermon because he should come through with some volume. Sermon and Brown, since it's full PPR. I'll play Sermon. I'll play Sermon. Don't love it, but I'll play him. And Crumbly Heads, I got your trade question. If you're able to make trade a couple picks for a veteran wide receiver, I'm good with that. Sit one between Achane, Zach Moss, and Wan'Dale Robinson. You're starting Wan'Dale of these names in full PPR because Malik Neighbors is not going to play. And even if he was, Wan'Dale Robinson is top 5 in the NFL in targets right now, just like we drew it up. You're starting Wan'Dale, and then it comes down to Achane versus Moss. Both are in bad matchups. I would play Moss because not only is Achane in a bad matchup, but he's in a bad offense right now. Could he overcome it? Yeah, but the odds are stacked against him. Who's going to play quarterback for them? Tyler Huntley again against New England? I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with that. I would, oh God, I hate to do this, but I would sit Achane. I would sit Achane. That offense is awful. That offense is absolutely garbage right now. I would play Zach Moss and I would play Wan'Dale Robinson. That's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. Yeah, I would sit Achane. Start Bucky or Rashad in full PPR. So I might get, maybe I'm a sucker for punishment. In full PPR, I prefer Rashad White because Bucky Irving is the better runner. Rashad White is still the better pass catcher. And I think the Bucs will be in a game script tonight that more likely lends to having to throw the ball a little bit more than last week. Last week, Bucky Irving got all the running work and he earned it and he did well with it. But also, the Bucs killed the Eagles in that game, and early. It was not really a contest in the second half, and they were able to bleed clock with their better runner in Bucky Irving. I wouldn't be surprised if game script was in the other direction on the road this week, with Atlanta playing well and likely to do just fine scoring points at home. I think Rashad White remains more viable tonight, and he was decent with the touches that he got last week. I would play Rashad. if you have to pick one between Rachaad White and Bucky Irving in full PPR, especially, I would go Rachaad White. I think he's more involved tonight as a pass catcher out of the backfield in a game where the Bucs are potentially playing a neutral game script or negative game script, excuse me, meaning they are trailing. Even if they're not trailing, even if they have a lead, road teams can't rest on leads. You have to stay aggressive as a road team. I think that keeps Rachaad viable for longer than the game script dictated last week. So I would say Rachaad. And then start Roschon or Justice. I like both of these guys. I like both of these dudes. Justice Hill has had two really big performances this year, sandwiched around two very pedestrian performances. This past week against the Bills was by far his best performance, 6 catches for 78 yards. He could be viable in this matchup with the Bengals pose obviously a good matchup or a good offense. Which means they have to keep pace. I guess in full PPR, I maybe would roll the dice on Justice Hill over Roschon Johnson. I like Roschon this week against the Carolina Panthers. I think he'll get a goal line opportunity or two or three. But in full PPR with the Ravens on the road and potentially having to stay aggressive, given a potential negative game script with the Bengals offense, I'll say Justice Hill. In full PPR, I'll say Justice. It's close, but I'll say Justice. And then Likely or Andrews. I guess Likely. I don't know who else is available on waivers for you, but I guess Isaiah Likely. What we're getting, we're getting nothing from Mark Andrews right now. At least Likely is out there running some routes. Likely hasn't done anything. He blew up week 1. He hasn't done anything since then, but at least he's out there running routes. Andrews isn't even running routes right now. He has 2 targets the past 2 weeks. The worst part about somebody like Mark Andrews is he's going to pop off when we least expect it. He's going to have a Mark Andrews performance when we're all by the time we all completely quit and give up on him, because you know how that works. That being said, I would play Likely. We just haven't seen anything from Mark Andrews. We've seen nothing from him. We've seen nothing. So I'll say Likely. I don't know who waiver wire options are available to you, but I'll say Likely. We can't fire up Andrews right now. He has done nothing. At least Likely had a blow-up week. But he hasn't done anything since then either. What is the value of a Tyreek Ramondre trade? Straight up, I'd rather have Tyreek, and it's not close. I like Ramondre. I have liked Ramondre Stevenson, but he's putting the ball on the ground at an alarming rate right now, and the Patriots staff is talking about giving Antonio Gibson more work. I wanted to buy low on Ramondre Stevenson, but he's fumbled like 4 times this year, and 2 have been lost, if I remember correctly. That's not a good situation. So yeah, I'll take Tyreek, and it's not because I can at least have some faith that Tua eventually returns. I don't know if it's going to happen, but at least the possibility exists. The possibility that the Patriots have a good offense by the end of the season is 0. That's just not going to happen. I'd rather have Tyreek because we can hold out hope that the offense may get back to where we want it to be. Like Tyreek for sure. Tyreek for sure. I wanted to buy Ramondre, but he keeps now giving me reasons not to. He keeps giving me reasons not to. Let's see. Stream Lawrence or Watson or Flacco if Richardson is out. It's sounding like Richardson is gonna play. But we obviously got to wait and see what the Friday practice report looks like, and then we'll ideally get a little bit more either Saturday or Sunday morning. Which, by the way, there probably will not be a Sunday sit stream this week, as there is the first of 3 straight international games that take place 9:30 East. That directly conflicts with when I normally stream, so we will knock out all start-sit questions on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed that stream, then feel free to hit the Discord. Second link in the description of this stream, or you can leave a question, starts a question in the form of a comment on a stream or recent video, and I can get to that as well. But anyway, it sounds like Richardson's going to play, so I don't know that Flacco is an option here. It's between Lawrence and Watson. Neither are very inspiring. I guess Watson is in a better matchup. I guess Deshaun Watson. Washington is a very gettable defense. The Colts are as well. The Colts are a gettable option as well. Their floors have been very similar. Watson's fantasy performances, pound for pound, are a little bit better than Lawrence's. I'll slightly lean Watson. He's been a little bit better for fantasy than Lawrence has been on a pound for pound basis. I'll say Watson. I don't love it, but I'll say Watson. This is a trade idea or team advice question. Trade one of those quarterbacks. You have Henry, you have Mason. You're running back. Pollard's on bye, so that's fine. Mixon is hurt, so you're just holding on to him. You're hanging on to him. Amon-Ra's on bye. Kupp is hurt. Metcalf, T. Higgins are slam dunk starters. Yeah, I would trade either Baker or Love. Do you have a Buck or a Packer wide receiver? You do not. I would dangle either Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield to somebody who needs a quarterback. This is a 1 quarterback league, so you only need 1 quarterback. And I understand maybe people hoard quarterbacks a little bit and that leaves the waiver wire thin. But I am always willing to roll the dice on rostering a single quarterback in 1 quarterback leagues until I absolutely need a quarterback. I would trade one of those 2, and you could if you start 2 wide receivers, you can get an extra. You could try to get an extra running back. If you start 3 wide receivers, you can try to maybe get an extra wide receiver. I would trade one of those quarterbacks. I don't know what the quarterback situation is like in your league. If teams hoard quarterbacks, then that makes it a little bit more difficult to maybe make a trade because people already have their contingency plans in place. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody in your league that is starting a quarterback that is not as good as either Love or Baker and could therefore be willing to try to upgrade. Yeah, I would trade a quarterback. If I have two tight ends and they're both healthy, I'm trying to trade one of those two tight ends to a teammate or to a league mate that needs a tight end. If I have two quarterbacks in a one quarterback league and they're both better than one of my league mates' quarterback QB1, I'm reaching out to that league mate and seeing if they want a quarterback upgrade in exchange for a depth running back or a depth wide receiver. The onesie positions, I know some of you play in Superflex, so this doesn't apply to you, but it does for the tight end. The onesie positions, quarterback in one quarterback leagues and tight end, if I have two, I want to get rid of one. And I want to acquire running back depth or wide receiver depth, whichever I think I need more of. That goes for anybody. And again, some leagues are different than others. Some leagues hoard quarterbacks. I never agree to that. I never agree to the notion of doing that, but you have people with different philosophies. They're going to give you their reasons. I'll give you mine. I just don't want to sandbag a roster spot for us, for a onesie position where if I feel good about one of my options, why even worry about the headache of having to figure out who do I start each week? Let me trade one for running back depth, or if I'm desperate at wide receiver depth. Trade the onesie position. Same with two. If I have Kincaid and Bowers, I'm trying to sell high on Bowers for either running back or wide receiver help. Yep. So you have two quarterbacks that are good. You have Love and Mayfield. They're both good. I'd be willing to bet there's somebody in your league that could use a quarterback upgrade like that. I would suggest dangling Baker, selling high on Baker, and moving forward with Love. Could you sell Baker for Dontavian Wicks? Did somebody pick up Dontavian Wicks and do that? Does that person need a quarterback? You're not going to get Jaden Reed in all likelihood. Could you trade Baker for Dontavian Wicks? Stack it up with Love? That's where I would look to go. Something like that. Would I trade Addison and Chase Brown for Adams? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, if you can make that happen, yeah, I would. As long as you're obviously you're giving up a solid depth running back, and you're not going to get any running backs in return if this is just a straight up 2-for-1. So if your running backs are solid, if you feel good about your running backs, then yeah. If you're not strong at running back, then I'm a little less bullish about this trade. But in a vacuum, Addison and Chase Brown for Adams, yeah, give me Adams. Give me Adams. I'll weather the storm until the trade deadline. If he doesn't play, he's not going to play this week. If he doesn't play next week, when is the trade deadline? Is it like week 8? November 5th. What week is that? This week is I'm going to do some basic math here. This is week 5, 6, 7, 8. It's ahead of week 10. They keep pushing this trade deadline back, I swear. But that's fine. That's good. That makes that creates a true contender and pretender situation for the NFL that allows buy and sell to be more of a legitimate, potential to happen at the NFL trade deadline. So you may be waiting a little bit on Adams, but for Addison and Chase Brown, as long as my running back depth is strong, yeah, I would do that. I would do that. I'm happy to wait. And Nino, you're welcome. Thanks again for the super. You have both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. If it's full PPR, I'm playing Rachaad White. If it's half PPR, I'm probably playing Rachaad White. If it's standard, I'm a little less bullish on both of them. It depends on who else you have. Like, who are your other running back options? If it's a flex question, who are your other wide receiver options? It all depends on who else you have. I am okay playing Rachaad White tonight in half or full PPR scoring. I think that some of the production will come back to him this evening. I do. But it depends on who your other options are. So let me know. Let me know. I got Greg's questions. Thanks, Greg, for popping in. Thank you to all of my members again for popping in. Your support, it means a lot. The support of the channel means a lot. Appreciate that. But I got all my member questions so far. If I see any others, I will make sure to grab them. Are we playing Godwin tonight? Hell yeah, we're playing Godwin tonight. He's a must start. You're starting him over Higgins. You're starting him over Pittman. You're starting him over Olave. You're not starting him over Lamb, but you're starting him over everybody else. I would say you're starting him over Jaden Reed as well. Chris Godwin is off to a great start. Chris Godwin is off to a wide receiver 1 start for the through the first month of the season. Hell yeah, we're starting Chris Godwin tonight. In half PPR scoring, what's your scoring? I don't see it. Oh, it's full PPR. He's the wide receiver 6 in half PPR scoring. I can't imagine he's lower than that in full PPR scoring. Let me see if I can pull it up. Fantasy Pros usually has this stuff. They do. Where does Chris Godwin rank among wide receivers through the first month of the season in full PPR? He's the wide receiver 6. Now, Jaden Reed is the wide receiver 2. He's so money when Jordan Love is in the lineup. It's crazy. If you can start 3 receivers, and I hope you can, you're playing CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, and Jaden Reed, in my opinion. Yeah, we're starting Godwin tonight. I know the short week sucks. I hate Thursday night games, but Chris Godwin is a must start right now. He's on fire. He is the wide receiver 6 through the first month of the season. We can't bench the wide receiver 6 on the season, right? Chris Godwin's a wide receiver 1 right now, like a clear-cut wide receiver 1 right now. So, yeah, we're playing Godwin. We're playing Godwin. I would play him over everybody in this list other than CeeDee Lamb and Jaden Reed. I would play him over Higgins. I would play him over Pittman. And, yes, I would play him over Olave. Got a couple more questions here in the chat, and we are about 25 minutes to kick off. So we do have a little bit of time in case there are any other questions that pop up. But I want to thank everybody for coming in this evening, for however long you spent with me, whether it was for a minute or 10 minutes or longer. Appreciate the support. Appreciate you guys thinking enough to tune in and hang out. I will be live again on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern for Start Sit Help. It will likely be the only Start Sit stream of the weekend as we have a string of international games coming up, starting with Jets-Vikings this weekend from London, 9:30 East. That directly conflicts when I typically stream. I imagine you guys would prefer to watch the game. I would as well. So I can take questions in Discord or in the form of a comment on any stream or video if you need help and miss the Saturday 5 p stream. So just wanted to throw that out there. But let's move through these last few questions to keep it moving. You're thinking of offering Ford, Pittman, and Rome Odunze for Flowers and Ramondre Stevenson. You have CD, you have Harrison, you have Kirk. And you get a big play scoring bonus. I have not been a Zay Flowers guy this year. 6 catches for 37 yards week 1. That's a wide receiver 3 performance. 7 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown week 2 against Vegas. That's good. Wide receiver 1 performance. Week 3 against Dallas, 3 catches for 20 yards. That's off the radar. That's not a wide receiver 3. That's a wide receiver 5 or 6. And then last week he bottomed out in a game that the Ravens dominated from the start, and therefore they didn't really need to throw the ball all that much, but still 1 catch for 10 yards for Zay Flowers. That's not going to get it done in any format. I'm not really into acquiring Zay Flowers. And Ford, Pittman, you could, I mean, I would offer Pittman for Stevenson straight up. Because Adunze is not going to get it done, and I don't want to trade Ford for Stevenson just yet. I'm not quite there. I think Stevenson is the better player, but the fumbles are a major issue right now. Because it wasn't Stevenson's had a stinker last week, and he had a stinker against the Jets as well. He does look like a prime buy low candidate, but he has fumbled the football in every game this year. He has put the ball on the ground in every game, and in the past 2 games, he lost those fumbles. That is bad. That is not good. It's just not, I mean, am I interested in a buy low on Ramondre Stevenson? Yeah, but I'm not paying that much. Actually, I don't even know if I want to do Pittman, who I know has been disappointing. But he did have a 100-yard game this past week. I would ask for Pittman. I would ask for Stevenson plus for Pittman right now. Like, is the person who has Stevenson, are they wide receiver needy? Because you could try to sell high on Pittman and get Ramondre and something else. You could be the one to get the 2-for-1. But I'm not in on buying Zay Flowers. And, different people have different opinions about different players. I like Zay Flowers. I think he's a good player. I think volume is going to be an issue all year long in that Ravens offense. He will have his weeks, and then he will have his weeks where you wished that you didn't have him. Not just that you didn't start him, but that you didn't have him. Okay, they're not hurting too bad for wide receiver. Okay. I would maybe say forego. I would say let this one go. I would say let this trade conversation maybe peter out. I'm not a Flowers guy. If you're a believer in Zay Flowers, then more power to you. Always make a move that you yourself want to, are interested in making. I can only provide like what my thoughts are, but if my thoughts are disagreeing with what your gut says, then go with your gut. Go with your own, belief and trust the guys that you want to believe in. If Zay Flowers is that guy for you, then great. He's not for me. He's not for me. I think he's a good player in a situation that does not offer week to week fantasy friendly consistency. That's where I'm at with Zay Flowers. Good individual player, too inconsistent for me to want him. And then with Stevenson, I don't know that I want to trade Pittman for him like in a 1-for-1 swap. You could try a Dunze, I guess. I mean, that would be an ultimate buy low, but you can offer pennies for Ramondre Stevenson right now because he's in bad shape. Plus, if the Antonio Gibson news is scaring off the person who has Ramondre, maybe you can get away with just like offering a Dunze, like see if the rookie hype is there with this particular trade partner that you have. Like I would offer a Dunze for Ramondre straight up. It probably won't get done, but you could take a shot. I'd be surprised if that worked, but you could take a shot. And then how far off is Higgins versus Pittman? Pittman is his team's wide receiver 1, I guess. Higgins is rounding into form. They're both in the same range. I would slightly prefer to have Higgins right now because his quarterback is Joe Burrow, and I can trust Joe Burrow. Pittman's regular starting quarterback is Anthony Richardson, who is not throwing the ball well right now. So they're somewhat close, but I would prefer to have Higgins. I would prefer to have Higgins. Rest of season, Higgins is a solid wide receiver 2 with upside. Pittman is like a low-end wide receiver 2 with upside. He's a good player, and he should be the team's wide receiver 1. But his quarterback situation is not as good as Higgins. Let's see. Full PPR. You got the Bucs backs tonight. You got White. You got Bucky. You have Kareem Hunt, who is looking like he might be the leader in that Chiefs backfield. And you have Sermon if Taylor doesn't play. And Taylor's looking unlikely to play. He hasn't practiced this week. High ankle sprain. I'd be surprised at this point if he went. In full PPR, I'm okay with Rachaad White. Again, God, I hope I don't get burned for this, but this is why we play fantasy football. You got to take your shots. You got to take your risks. You got to call your shots. I think Rachaad White will be okay tonight in full PPR scoring. He was effective with the opportunities that he got last week. The team went to Bucky Irving more. Yes, he's the better runner, but also the matchup and the score of the game dictated it. The Bucs blew the doors off the Eagles, like pretty much from the word go. They had a big lead, and they were able to chew clock in the second half. Honestly, they were able to start doing that by halftime. And so they ran the ball with Bucky, and he got his touchdown, and he worked out, and that was all well and good. But Rachaad still was effective with the work that he got. And I think that the game tonight, I don't think I think it's less likely for the Bucs to boat race an opponent on the road, especially a division opponent. I think it would be a little bit closer. I think tonight's matchup is a little bit closer, and therefore that means White on the road is more of a candidate to catch some passes out of the backfield and still be the better pass catcher between the two Bucs backs. So I am good with Rachaad White for one more week because I saw enough good from him last week in the limited opportunities that he got. Bucky is solid, and you figure he's going to stay involved tonight. Rachaad White's not going to take over this backfield. Those days are over. Bucky has a role no matter what. But I think the matchup was way more, the game script was way in his favor last week, and he delivered. To his credit. He has earned the opportunities, the snaps and touches that he's getting, and he's going to get them again tonight. But I think Rachaad will be solid tonight. I do. In full PPR, in a closer game, you would think in a closer game, you don't predict a blowout, especially the road team. I think Rachaad stays more involved. Even if the Bucs are playing with a lead tonight, road teams have to stay aggressive. You can't rest on your laurels on the road. So I think Rachaad stays viable for longer. That would be my one. I guess my other one is Kareem Hunt. At least he's in the Chiefs offense. It looks like he might be the guy. He's probably going to get first crack at opportunities this week after what happened with Carson Steele. And he's, even though he's older, he's the more proven, better player. So I'll take him over Bucky. Trey Sermon is going to be high in the rankings this week because Taylor's not going to play. I just don't know if I trust it. Sermon is not good. Sorry, nothing personal. No offense. But Trey Sermon is not that good. He's getting an opportunity, so he could come through as a volume-based RB2, but I don't know if I want to bank on volume from a backup running back who's just getting the volume out of necessity. In a matchup that is actually not as good as it might look like on paper. Jacksonville is decent against the run. I don't know how long that's going to last. It feels like there's a mutiny brewing in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson's probably lost that locker room, but that doesn't mean that players still don't play with some pride. And right now, Jacksonville is a pretty good defense by the numbers against the run. So I'm not like super in on Trey Sermon in that matchup just because he's getting the opportunities. You're going to see the big pundits. I already see it. I see Trey Sermon ranked as like a top 20 flex option this week. I don't know if I'm buying it. I don't know if I'm buying it. I will say Rachaad White and Kareem Hunt. London or Deontay. I can understand wanting to fire up London. It sucks if you can only play one of these two guys. But I think I'm riding the wave with Deontay Johnson. He is on fire right now since Andy Dalton took over. 7 catch. Deontay Johnson has 27 targets through the past 2 weeks. He had 13 targets last week. He had 14 targets week 3. He has 27 targets in the past 2 weeks. Nothing scary about the matchup against the Bears. Now, London's no slouch. He has 21 targets through the past 2 weeks. 12 last week, 9 the week before. But Deontay's ceiling so far has been higher than Drake London's. Deontay's floor has been lower, but that was because they were attempting to run a professional offense with Bryce Young at the helm. And for all the excuses we were making for Bryce Young, it is looking more and more like he just might not be cut out for this, because we were blaming that the Carolina Panthers don't have anything around him to help him. But Andy Dalton is doing just fine. And I know that Andy Dalton is a vet and Bryce is a second-year player, but Bryce was the first overall pick last year, and in his second season, he's not a rookie anymore. It's like, for better or worse, it might be unfair, but like, expectations are fast-tracked for first overall picks, and it's not working right now. So I don't officially blame Deontay Johnson for his first 2 weeks. We are seeing Deontay's ceiling, and right now it's higher than Drake London's ceiling. If you're leaning London, go with your gut. But I would play Deontay. If I could only play one of these dudes, I would play Deontay. I want to play them both. But I would play Deontay if I can only play one. Yep. I'm playing Deontay if I can only play one. Bucky or Singletary this week. I think you have to fire up Bucky tonight. Devin Singletary has missed practice the past 2 days. What's the latest? Help us out, sleeper. Devin Singletary missed practice today with a groin injury. Second straight practice missed. Singletary said he has a chance to play this week, but 2 straight DNPs. I'm reading straight from the Rotoballer message that via Sleeper about his status. We need to see him practice on Friday to have him have any type of shot. It's not a great matchup as it is, and Seattle is one of those teams that plays much, much better at home. Plus, without Malik Neighbors, this is an offense that I wouldn't be surprised if they sputter out and struggle. I think you have to play Bucky tonight because we know Bucky's playing. If you wait on Singletary and then he's ruled out and Bucky was your best option, then unfortunately we're left holding the bag on Sunday wondering what to do. I think you have to play Bucky tonight. Singletary is not trending in the right direction, and the Giants' offense looks like they're just in a terrible spot anyway this week, even if he's able to go. I would just play Bucky. I don't think Singletary's going to play. If back-to-back missed practices, he has to practice tomorrow in a limited fashion. Even if he does, this offense isn't going to have Malik Neighbors in all likelihood. Like, this is not an ideal situation. I would play Bucky over Singletary. Yes. And we're picking 2 between Deontay, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Josh Downs. Deontay's a slam dunk. Deontay is a bona fide slam dunk. And I think I'm inclined to say Brian Thomas. I will say if Richardson is out and it's Flacco playing quarterback for the Colts, then I would say Downs. And they play the same game. They play each other. The Jags and the Colts play each other. So you'll know what the situation is going into the game. Deontay's a slam dunk. I would play Downs if Joe Flacco is the quarterback for the Colts. I would play Brian Thomas if Anthony Richardson is the quarterback for the Colts. Deontay definitively, and then it depends on who quarterbacks Indianapolis this week. If it's Flacco, Downs. If it's Richardson, Brian Thomas. I don't want to fire up Xavier Worthy right now. I know that his opportunity is like way ahead, way in front of him, right in front of him, but it's a tall order to ask a 21-year-old rookie in his 5th game to take over as the wide receiver 1. And he's going to see Marshawn Lattimore in this game as a de facto default. Yeah, I'd rather not. I'm going to wait a week on Xavier Worthy. I'm going to wait a week. Yeah. So hopefully that helps. Deontay, slam dunk. He's must start at this point. And then Downs if it's Flacco, Brian Thomas if it's Richardson for the Colts. Do I say sputtering a lot? I guess I do. That offense is sputtering. It's a good word. I'm happy that I'm having an influence in more ways than one. Hopefully. Sputtering offense. It's a good way to let people know they're crapping out. They're not performing well right now. Or defense. You could say it, you could talk about it, or coaching. A lot of different use cases. I'm happy that my vocabulary is seeping into what you guys are saying on a day-to-day basis. You love to see it. I think that's it for questions. I don't see any others. I don't think I missed any. I didn't see anybody ask me to readdress a question or that I did miss a question. So hopefully we're all squared away there. We have about 7 minutes left to kick off. So if you're having, any last minute thoughts, I can hang here for a bit longer. Again, like a very quick, rapid thoughts on what to do for this evening. Bijan, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield are must starts. London is a likely start if you have like a situation where you only start 2 receivers and you have some really good options. And maybe like a Deontay Johnson who has emerged with Andy Dalton, then you could probably pivot off of London. But if you start 3 receivers, in all likelihood, he is one of your best 3 receivers. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 tonight. Darnell Mooney is a wide receiver 3 with upside. Rachaad White in PPR and even half PPR leagues is fine to go with. But obviously his ceiling is low now that this is a full-fledged committee. Bucky Irving, also fine on the flex radar, depending on who your options are. He's more viable in standard scoring leagues. Rachaad White, I think, still has him in the pass-catching department, but Bucky will have a role. I think the matchup tonight and the fact that they're on the road on a short week dictates that Rachaad White should get a little bit more work. How much work did he get last week? So he should be fresh for this Thursday night game, relatively speaking. He handled 13 opportunities, 10 carries, Rachaad White last week for 49 yards, so almost 5 yards a carry. Good. 2 catches for 35 yards. Good. He only touched the ball 12 times. Rachaad White should be fine for this short week on the road. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a little bit more of a Rachaad White game. And then hopefully you're not relying on Kyle Pitts. Hopefully you're not relying on Cade Otton, but Cade Otton is fine as a desperation stream this evening if you need it. Pitts, I guess, is in the same boat. That's where we're at with Kyle Pitts. He's a desperation stream. One of 2 things is true about Kyle Pitts. He's either bad at football or the Falcons don't know what to do with him. I hope for Pitts' sake it's the latter, but neither one makes you feel good about him. So those are my thoughts, my overarching thoughts. And Tyler Algier is a desperation running back play, but he's better. He's in all likelihood better off on your bench. He's got some sneaky intrigue tonight just because do we have the full picture, the full story on Bijan Robinson's health? I don't know. So he's got some sneaky appeal tonight as an RB3, but not much more than that. Drop Mooney for Trey Tucker? No. Keep Mooney. Mooney's playing well. He is firmly entrenched as a regular starter for this Falcons offense. I believe he's got like 20 targets or 21 targets the past 3 weeks, 6, 7, 8 targets. That is good as a wide receiver too, who you probably picked off the wire. That is fine. Just because Trey Tucker is potentially looking at an expanded role with Devontae Adams out of the picture, I am not picking him up for Darnell Mooney because Mooney's playing well right now. So, let's ride that wave. Kirk Cousins might not be playing all that great, but he's getting the ball to Darnell Mooney. I'll take it. Trey Tucker's been good as well. The past couple weeks, anyway, he's been good. But I think I'd rather have Mooney. I think the Falcons' offense is a little bit better. So I'll slightly take Mooney over there. Yes, if Kyle Pitts sputters out tonight, we will all come together on Saturday and hold a funeral for Kyle Pitts. We hardly knew ye. Look, come on, Kyle. Let's get things into gear. I actually have him I'm firing him up in a dynasty league tonight. I got a shitload of guys going in one dynasty league. I have Pitts, I have Rashad, and I have Godwin. So giddy up. Come on, Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I think Higgins has a little bit more upside than Pittman. If you offer Pittman and Roschon for Higgins, I would ask for their last running back on their bench in return just to make it an even 2-for-2 swap and get some running back depth in return. And I don't dislike Rashawn Johnson rest of season. I think he's a solid stash and wait. But if you can turn Pittman and Roschon into Higgins and maybe whoever their last running back on their bench is just to make it an even 2-for-2, I'm okay with that. I tend to prefer a team's wide receiver 1 to a team's wide receiver 2, but with Higgins catching the ball from Joe Burrow versus Pittman catching the ball from, I guess when healthy, Anthony Richardson, I think I like Higgins on the season a little bit more, even though he is volatile, given the state of his contract. But I would want a running back in return. I would want a little bit of running back depth in return in that trade because I do think Roschon has some standalone value, and you would be doing that guy a bit of a solid by giving him the handcuff. So try to get a running back in return. If you're strong at running back, it's fine to grab Trey Tucker. I don't want to give up on Javonte Williams yet, but he hasn't given us a whole hell of a lot of a reason to believe in him. So I understand. I understand. As long as you're fine at running back. Make sure you're as long as you're fine at running back. If Javonte was your RB5 and you could use a little wide receiver help, I'm okay with it. If you're thin at running back, then I would maybe that would have maybe given that move some pause. But if you're set at running back, then it's fine to take a shot on Tucker because he figures to have an expanded role for the rest of the season without Devontae Adams in the picture. And yeah, I'll have to check out the primary or the secondary broadcasts for Prime. I never do. So appreciate the good looks. We'll take a look at Prime Vision this evening. However, it is kickoff time, and we are at the end of the chat. I do not see any other questions at this time. So I'm going to tell you guys to let's go enjoy that game and enjoy the rest of your Thursdays in general. I will be back on Saturday for start, sit, help for the rest of the Week 5 slate. Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you can, come on, hang out. We can get any thoughts that you may have finalized, any new questions you may have sorted out, any existing or repeated questions firmly cemented when we have Friday practice reports and injury status is all known and understood. Probably no Sunday stream with the first of 3 international weeks back to back to back. There's a London game at 9:30 East this weekend, so I may not be able to fire the Sunday stream. If you missed the Saturday stream, you can ask a question in the form of a comment on an existing video or stream, or you can join the Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream and all the videos and streams on this channel. You can join the community there. I'm not always available, but you can crowdsource the community, and I'll probably make myself a little bit more available in the morning during these international games. But that'll do it for me tonight. Best of luck in this matchup, and I will see you guys on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.